Please welcome our esteemed speakers with a warm round of applause to open up this panel discussion. Thank you.
Morning, folks. Very nice to be here with my esteemed panelists today. My name is Moshe, and I look after BD in Wintermute, based in Singapore. We're one of the proprietary trading firms which trade a lot on DeFi and CeFi. I'll start with a round of intro with my panelists, and then we'll go through some of the key questions we face in DeFi, and very happy to hear your thoughts on this. Please, Dr. Kang.
Hey, my name is Kang Lee. I'm the Chief Security Officer at CertiK. CertiK is the largest Web3 security company. We are the largest because we have the largest amount of people, I guess. And also we have the largest amount of customer, and about 70% of the projects listed, Web3 project listed at Coin Marketplace and CoinGecko, that's our customer.
Hi, my name is S.J. Park. I am the head of strategy at Vertex Protocol. Vertex is a self-custodial exchange that's powered by an app-specific shared sequencer network called Edge. We launched just about a year ago, and we've done just under 80 billion in aggregate trading volume. On a daily basis, we do anywhere between 500 million to $1 billion in trading volume across Arbitrum, Blast, and then soon Mantle and other ecosystems. Great to be here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Arisa, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Cega. Cega is the first DeFi protocol to create a smart contract that can handle options and exotic options. We are one of the top volume protocols in DeFi options, and super excited to talk about the potential of our products today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jesse Beller. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Terrace. You should think of us as interactive brokers for crypto. And as it pertains to this panel, we do both centralized and decentralized liquidity aggregation, synthetic swaps, pairs, everything in portfolio management in one.
Hey, guys. I'm Ryan. I'm the co-founder and CPO of Mix, MYX. We are a fully on-chain perpetual trading DEX, and we're powered by a novel engine that's helping us to support unlimited amount of open interest with very limited amount of capital. And with that, we are able to actually offer the lowest possible trading costs on chain. Yeah, that's about me. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you very much. This panel fields questions. I'll run through some of the, some of the concerns that users have when it comes to DeFi that range from security to users to liquidity to KYC. So we'll start with security, which is Dr. Kang's core topic here. Dr. Kang, given the unique financial opportunities present in DeFi, along with the paramount importance security in this domain, how does CertiK's approach to evaluating vulnerabilities in DeFi protocol differ from more traditional blockchain security audits? Especially, it's getting more complicated, right? It's one of the things that we ask for all of our partners before we start. Do you have an audit? Who is it audited by, etc.? So, Dr. Kang.
Yeah, well, thanks for the host the question, and this is actually the most frequently asked question, in the few events I attend here. Like, how does CertiK's auditing, on DeFi or other things different from the traditional auditing? So I could give the answer, like, in the past few days, I might actually give the answer, and in fact, other security companies might also give the similar answer to say, hey, we have AI, we have all the formal verification of all this secret. And I did something similar, but then I went back to did some soul searching. Then I feel like, if you come back to see, what are the strengths, I feel like CertiK's strength is really like, number one, it's in fact, we actually can attract the best talents in the security field, and we have probably the largest amount of those people. That's, I believe, still the core of our advantage. Now, again, so traditional security auditing, I feel like I have been in this traditional security auditing, a long time. Definitely, not DeFi, right? But I still feel like if we look at all the new technology we applied compared to the other advantage, I still feel like the human, the expert, that's probably the most important one. Now, come back to the other aspect, I do want to say, relate to DeFi. I'm the only person here is like not a builder. I think they are more like a building DeFi or service, right? Security auditing or reviewer is more like a destructor. You know, we take a application, we look at where are the problems. Now, we do see as a large company, large security company compared to maybe the developer or small firm, we do see some ugly part that that most people probably don't know. Like because of the complexity of the DeFi, now you actually start to use lots of component. Now we see like security most often is because of people make mistakes, a developer are careless, a design not right. However, recently there are also a trend. There are attacker, malicious attacker try to inject code to DeFi project. They have, there's reports saying North Korea attacker group Lazarus pretend to be a developer and join project. That's one. But because of the complexity of DeFi, there are other components being used by the DeFi that potentially they put in code. Now we recently published a blog on malicious like backdoor in the different type of token, and we see that the attacker, these are the malicious group. They are actually building code and have secret backdoor in it, and then try to let other people use it. I think those are the things we pay attention that might, kind of like as advantage. We track all these attackers. We have been fighting with them all the time. Think about like people come to CertiK to do auditing. Lots of them are, good project. They want to find problem. They want to get a report. They want to use that as evidence to, VC to exchange, right? To gain, trust. But the bad guy also want to do that. So they actually also come to us to say, hey, here's our project. Initially, it just looked, a simple fork, but now they're actually doing lots of tricky things they try to hide. We have been fighting with them, so now we're actually tracking them. I think that may be one of the advantage we have is like we have looked at so many projects. We start to already feel like it's the same group. People come back again, and they are actually the only thing I could, warn this crowd is that as DeFi is getting complicated, the more component you use, not only your application, like if you all source or you use third-party component, look carefully about those, and you can ask CertiK's help on those. You can also please ask someone, the security, your friend working in security field, to look at potential threat in those, and that might be something helpful for you. And then come back to your question, well, are auditing different from the traditional one? I would say again, there's still a large component is similar to the traditional auditing, but we do add new technology like formal verification. We do use fuzzing. We have certain technology. I'm not going to go into detail on that. The tools help, but still heavily rely on human. But the more important thing I want to emphasize is that the attacker are not, all the problem are not simply developer mistake. There are malicious groups doing all kinds of ways to try to inject, backcode in the project, and we need to fight for that. Yeah, thank you.
That's really, really helpful. I mean, as a user, any user in DeFi, first they want for us is security, and I guess next is about what's the right user experience when they interact with the protocol. So next question for Jesse. Catering for both DeFi users, which you can count as a non-KYC camp, and institutional investors who are kind of the KYC camp, seems a pretty balancing act at all times. How does Terrace ensure a smooth user experience for both set of users, but also being compliant with the KYC standards?
That's a great question. Thank you. I would think of it as the world right now has a lot of people who don't want to KYC, and they access X set of liquidity, and then there's a group of people who are willing to KYC. Institutions are typically required to KYC, and they're able to access X plus Y, additional liquidity. And at some level, if you follow actual standards and regulations, the vast majority of liquidity requires KYC, and it probably will going forward. If you look at traditional markets, it is all KYC required effectively. And so what it means, from at least from a very simple answer from our side, it's effectively two platforms, right? But you normalize the underlying liquidity, and so whether it's, you could take some of the folks on the stage, you don't necessarily have to KYC to use their platforms, but they're competing at the same time with folks who do have KYC requirements, that means that they have a bigger audience potentially. But for those who are willing to KYC, it's still going to come down to the same factors that matter for anyone trading, which is price, liquidity, asset coverage. And ultimately, that's what separates folks. I think the more interesting piece that we've been grappling with, and I think actually I wonder how it's like at Wintermute, is how can you bridge that gap for the folks who don't want to KYC? And maybe they have valid reasons of why they don't want to KYC. And how can you bring more institutional liquidity into DeFi at some level? And I think there's been a lot of money poured into zero-knowledge KYC type solutions. I haven't seen any of them take off. Maybe, hopefully. I think there's been a much more interesting move towards, and at some level, I don't know how many general counsels are here, it's up to the general counsels of the various trading desks, but there's been a move towards, hey, if I face a smart contract, they face a smart contract, I'm not facing them, and so neither side necessarily has to KYC. And so kind of we look at the world as that is probably the best solution in the future, and one we like to move towards. Will regulators like that? I don't know. I would say as an American citizen based in the US, probably not. But outside of that, maybe. And I do think that's probably the ultimate balancing act of finding ways to give those who need to KYC access to the same liquidity, access to the same opportunity as those who aren't willing to, and vice versa. And I think that basically DeFi can do that through smart contracts. It's just complicated.
I 100% agree. I think when we look at DeFi, it's we've seen pretty good growth in perpetuals in DeFi. It's pretty much of use case. I mean, what are some of the best business models in crypto is essentially trading, and trading perpetuals is definitely a potentially spot on DeFi, but also options. I mean, options. I'm always surprised how it hasn't gone as much growth as they have in TradFi. Right? TradFi is doing options anything to 20% of the futures volumes, whereas in DeFi it's still early. My next question to Arisa is, you were built one of the earliest and biggest option platforms in DeFi. I mean, how do you bridge the gap between traditional and DeFi finance? I mean, how does your platform ensure the legal ownership and secure transfer of value for tokenized real-world assets during the on-chain trading?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And kind of going back to Jesse's answer about KYC and the value of DeFi, a lot of people think that people are in DeFi because they value the ideology of decentralization or because they think it's really nice to be able to connect your wallet immediately to the platform. But I actually differ. I think it's very different, the motivation people go on DeFi right now. I think people go on DeFi because they have accessibility to the kind of products that they wouldn't otherwise in centralized finance. And so an example is things like low liquidity token pairs or meme coins that are really popular right now. These types of new assets or the velocity of new assets being created are not accessible in centralized platforms. And so what I think is centralized platforms, have this really secure foundation and allows for a large amount of liquidity to be traded securely on those platforms. I think decentralized platforms actually allow for a lot of innovation and new ecosystems and microeconomies to happen. And so now going back to Moshe's question about, how do we ensure a secure ownership and a legal ownership of these assets and these trades in decentralized finance? I think at the end of the day, a decentralized financial platform creates something called a smart contract, which is the tool that people can stake their assets into in order to take a position in the crypto economy markets. So yes, there should be some best practices in this world about how smart contracts could ensure a legal ownership, but it's a very different standard than what it was in centralized finance, where in centralized finance, you have to have a paper that two parties sign in order to ensure legal ownership because the trust is not in the technology, it's in this counterparty, which is a very archaic method of ensuring trust. But for smart contracts, the trust is in the technology because you're able to just trust that if you put asset A in this contract, it's going to spit out asset B, and there's no intermediary, no human being that is actually touching this transaction. And so legal ownership is required when there is a lack of trust. But smart contracts allow for this autonomous execution that has trust from day one. And so that's where I think there's a very big difference between centralized finance and decentralized finance. Hope that answered the question.
It does. I think one of the great use cases of DeFi is, when it comes to borrowing lending, CeFi always had this trust problem. Right? We saw with various CeFi platforms that failed to return assets to the lenders, whereas DeFi, it pretty much worked as it is. It works according to smart contract. Most of the loans got returned fairly smoothly, and shows that actually there is a very big use case in DeFi for the trustless manner. That's great. No.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, like when Alameda, which was one of the largest market makers in this entire industry, collapsed in November of 2022, there was a lot of centralized platforms that struggled with liquidity, counterparty credits, and a lot of trading issues. But DeFi worked just fine. And I think that's because the trust is in the technology and the smart contract, and there's some issues surrounding that people are still trying to solve. But I think the innovative technology here should definitely be noticed and understood that it's slightly different than how traditional ecosystems worked.
I think one issue that we face as a trading firm, or pretty much anyone in the industry, is the fragmentation of liquidity. Right? It's literally everywhere. In TradFi, it's just one place you can trade your Apple stocks, or you can trade your Hong Kong HCI futures. You do have this consolidated pool of liquidity. As a trading firm in TradFi, you would just need to onboard with an exchange, whereas in crypto, you have to onboard with many different venues. Now, both CeFi and DeFi. So my question is for two of the perpdexes out there, Vertex and Mix. Considering the competitive landscape of both centralized and decentralized, it also has a scalability issue, right? Usually centralized is very scalable, right? It's very good for user acquisition. The question is in DeFi, how does your respective platform compete in terms of liquidity, user experience, and scalability? And how do you get more users to trade on that? How do you make sure they stay in your ecosystem?
All right. Yeah, thank you for the question. I think I want to frame this question a bit by talking about how the use cases for crypto as a whole has changed over the years. So if we look back at 2020, where DeFi summer started, before that, you see a growth of the market cap and increased percentage of crypto assets stored in centralized exchanges. And the reason for that is that the use cases back then was to buy and hold and trade Bitcoin or Ethereum or cryptocurrency. That's it. So people were super satisfied with the centralized exchanges and their services because it's the single best cross-chain wallet there is, even at today. But after 2020, you see that as we continue to grow as a market, you see less and less assets stored in centralized exchanges. And some argue that regulatory risks and the collapse of FTX has contributed to that. But we have had large exchanges collapse before 2020. So I think the key driver here is that we have more and more use cases on chain. In order to actually get these alphas, users has to deploy their asset on chain and use their assets on chain. So the use cases had really changed from a simple one, just buy and hold, to buy and trade and use them in your wallets. Once most of your assets are stored in wallets, it makes more sense to just trade on chain instead of putting them back into central exchanges, trade and then get it back out. That's a lengthy process for these users. So what we think is this trend is definitely coming. It's inevitable to have a sector that's serving users on chain and catering to their on-chain trading needs. And it just comes down to how the segmentation really of the users. Some of the users will remain to be financial investors, and that's it. Some of the users will be application users that's using assets on chain. So for these traders, these users, we want to provide service to them. We want to provide better service to them. So for us, there's a lot of barriers to conquer before we can do that. think about it as a metaphor. If it's an inappropriate metaphor though, but bear with me. So think about this, right? You have a bathroom in your room, and you choose to go somewhere else's room for their bathroom. It has to be something really wrong with your own. Otherwise, you wouldn't be going to the other rooms. So this is the same problem we have today. It's too costly to trade on chain, and it's been resolved thanks to the Dankun upgrade. So after the Dankun, the prices went down 95%, and the team at Mix are also still doing gas utilization optimization on top of that. So before that, it's like $5 to open and trade. Now it's like 10 cents, but we want it to go down to 5 cents and 3 cents. And it might seem to be incremental, or you have a diminishing return for continued gas optimization. But that's strategically important for us to continuously lower the cost of users to trade on chain, and that's the one thing on the gas cost. Another one is the most important one is the trading cost, right? So you have these different approaches of solving the problem. You could have an order book system, which has been used for decades. It's super capital efficient, and that's the reason why you can offer super cheap trading costs. But also, there's other solutions that offer trading through a pool model, which is our model as well. So you need to be able to offer the same level of capital efficiency to the traders, while at the same time do it in a decentralized context. It's a super challenging thing, but we have managed to do it. So think about a typical trading market makers, right? They can offer a large amount of trading volume with very little amount of capital, and the way that the reason why they can do that is they serve as an intermediary between the long and short traders. So once they match the long and short traders in order book, they're off to service other clients. Same thing with our product. So we have a new engine, what we call a matching pool mechanism, where the pool takes on the difference between the long and short traders, and it takes on the exposure temporarily before it transfers that to another, either that's a market maker or a genuine trader on different sides. So with that engine, we are able to support, for example, if we have $1 in the pool, we can support $10, $100 of open interest, and naturally you get this higher capital efficiency and lower trading costs, and all of a sudden you can provide similar level of liquidity and pricing to on-chain traders. And we still have a lot of other problems to solve, but that's the first problem that we have tackled. Yeah.
Exactly. So I guess in the Vertex world, there's there's pool model as well as the order book model. Now, SJ, on the order book side, how do you overcome some of the challenges?
Yeah, I would say I think it's interesting to take a step back and view where we are as a crypto ecosystem and DeFi specifically. I think we're at a point where we've actually advanced a lot technologically. So to the original question of there being slack or constraint on performance or scalability, I feel like that is actually less relevant. And really what is really relevant is user adoption, and how do you bring the normies or the mainstream users on chain. I think Korea is actually a very interesting case study for that. As a country, it's very curious about crypto. There's very fervent, avid trading on centralized exchanges. Upbit does more spot volume than Coinbase. There's more crypto trading volume than traditional equities trading volume in Korea. But if you survey the everyday Korean crypto trader, many of them actually never moved assets on chain or bridged assets or done any DeFi primitives. So I think there's a lot to do as it pertains to making sure that we are building products that are super easy to use and super easy to onboard users. Specific to your question as to the dichotomy between a limit order book DEX and also a pool-based DEX, as Ryan mentioned, we feel like an order book-based DEX is the most efficient way to trade. For Vertex, we actually have this hybrid model where we have an AMM and an order book working together in sync. And I think we've benefited from that, from the capital efficiency of it. But kind of going back to the original point, I think we are definitely making a lot of progress in terms of the product, and now it really comes down to user onboarding. And what you led the question with, Moshe, in terms of fragmentation of liquidity, I think is a big issue. And I think every project has its own solution to that. For us, we have been designing like a sequencer layer that acts as a liquidity layer on top of the chains that we deploy to. And now that we're on Arbitrum and Blast and Mantle or Berachain soon, like all of that liquidity is shared. And while not being deployed in like a custom L2 or L3, but that's just one solution. Everybody on this panel has very good ideas for it. I think it really comes down to solving the problem of liquidity fragmentation and user adoption.
That's super helpful here. Now, the next question is for all of our panelists. Might hear, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all these, I say, buzzwords, revolutioning many industries outside of crypto, but many one in TradFi. Now, do you see AI or machine learning being utilized in DeFi to improve any of your core sectors, being security or user experience or financial product? Are there anything that's already in development that you can share?
I'm happy to start. So, I do a lot of trading, and in the trader ecosystem, one of the best performing trading algos that I know that someone created this year was that they actually fed Bybit API to a LLM, like a large language learning model, and then they basically told that model to do trades for them. And that trading algo apparently had like a tremendous P&L. They put in like $1,000, and I think like they're currently at like $10 million or something. So I think that was that was a very successful use case of AI that I was not involved with. But I also think that in my business, specifically in DeFi options, we do something called structuring, which is the art of looking at market and thinking about where things are going. We create something that is risk-reward managed into a strategy that we offer to people who can stake into those smart contracts. And I think the value of structuring has always been to the power of the structurer as like an individual. But with the rise of AI and machine learning, we can actually generate strategies for these structured products and option trading products automatically. And we could even make it so that these strategies can change depending on where the market is, and become more flexible and not just like one single product at a certain time. I think these are all very interesting potentials to create a more exciting structure ideas for products like ours. Actually, fun fact, the managing director of the structured products team that I used to work with when I was in traditional finance is actually here with his daughters today. And so if you guys are interested in hearing more about structuring or how that works in the DeFi ecosystem, please feel free to ask me or him during the event today.
I'll jump in following. I guess we're all going to answer. Like on our side, I think there's kind of 3 levels of where, effectively it's large language models, we can call it AI, but some version of that plays in. There's at the development level, so every single engineer in our team has Copilot, and we have potentially our own internal LLM we use. It just speeds up development, cuts costs, you can move faster. Then there's kind of product level applications. So at least for us, we aggregate liquidity. We can use LLMs to improve the routing of the actual transactions. For example, if you're dealing with a combination of centralized exchanges, which have maker-taker fees, optimizing when you actually place orders in the book versus facing a market maker like Wintermute, which is just a pure, this is the price type opportunity. You can use natural language processing to create easier user interfaces for customers, that kind of thing. And then I think there's the financial product world, which is it's taking robo-advisors that we've had for 10 years and taking to the next level, and that might be what you're talking about with structuring. It could be algos that our customers are using. I assume Wintermute and others, and every market maker here is using some kind of LLM to improve their routing, their performance. And I think that world of financial product side, that's not what we do. We're a platform, we're not an RIA, we have no interest in doing that. But I think kind of, if you think about value creation, those are the three different areas, and they're all developing in their own world and then on their own paths, but all of them have tremendous value, just to different people.
Yeah, I would say my experience is also very similar to what the panelists have said, whereby at Vertex, we're not necessarily building AI tooling currently, but we definitely are working with projects who are, and they're looking for a base layer of liquidity and a venue to settle their trades. So we're there to support them. Like a project that comes to mind right now is a project called LogX that's building a lot of these tools, and I wish I had access to the trading strategy that Arisa mentioned. You know, better performers than human traders like myself. But yeah, we're excited about the future, and we're here to support those transactions to clear, and looking forward to it.
I choose to speak last because they usually have a knowledge, agent allow you to increase your wealth. And I often tell scary stories I don't want to do at the beginning. But we as a security company, we do see something on the dark side that most people don't see. In particular, related to this, we have seen recently some of the fraud targeting the trading agent or the AI agent. I'm going to take one example. I recently, I personally got involved in the investigation. So I also echo early our panelists' the opinion, and like for example, Arisa mentioned that people go to DeFi or DEX just to access certain token that you cannot get it from CX. I do that. Now that's also mean that lots of newly issued token only available on these, right? Not on the CX, because it just in the DeFi field it just make it much easier for anyone to issue all this. So fraudulent people also do that. So recently we are investing, there's a group of token, and we later realized that actually indeed a targeting, code, targeting agent. So these are token, so if let's take a simple case. So there are newly issued token, and these are they did a couple of things. So first they denounce the ownership. They have an upper limit on the number of token they're gonna mint. All looks right, and they also, when they got the liquidity pool and the LP token, they put into a decent lock. Everything looks fine. Then suddenly, after a certain time period, there's a rug pull happened. We actually got surprised. How can they did rug pull? Somehow they have a secret backdoor there. They can secretly mint. Even everything looks right, but somehow they generate liquidity secretly because of the code. And then we were thinking, who are they targeting? Looks like their trigger point is like, I think they were looking at certain agent, that automatically buy the newly issued token that meet these requirements. So we investigated. It seems like no human actually fall into the trap of these, but only the trading agent that looking for newly issued token, but meeting certain requirement been hit by them. So we know they issue actually hundreds of these tokens, not just single one, and we know they are targeting the trading agent. So that come back to the topic like AI, machine learning. Of course, we use it in our security detection, but I just again want to warn people that, especially the trader, our platform that enable trading, there are people targeting you as well. So just be careful on that.
Yeah. So I think I'll wrap up. So for us, we Mix are heavy users of AI technology. We're a big fan of it, but just like I'm a big fan of crypto, we don't think that everything should be decentralized, and we don't think AI can do everything for us. For now, me personally, this is my personal take. The AI that we have today is a better searching engine, which is the reason why Google thought that this could be a huge threat to them, because it helps you to navigate complex and an abundant amount of material and give you the answers that you need. In some cases, you can use that to generate even coding to a certain extent. So we use that as a super powerful searching engine to save a lot of energy and time when we are doing our own research. And we use them to help better structure the question because it has the better context, knowing everything about the subject. So that's like, I think, a key user case for AI technology today. And if we have to think about the places that we can apply this technology in the near future, the use case could be something like, for users, if they need to have a look at the user guide, that in the past can be burdensome for them, locating the right article, going through the whole thing. We can have an AI trained to help better answer the customer service questions. That could be something that's tangible in the future. But I think at this point, human talent are more important, and the AIs are tools for us. Yeah.
I'll probably also add that from my perspective as a HFT trading firm is, if you split out a trading's journey, right? You have the model generation pre-trade, and you have the execution layer, which has the trading side where we face various exchanges, and you have the post-trade. The execution layer is very much you got to make sure that your transaction can land successfully. That side is typically more rule-based, more parameter-based, because you got to make sure that you can get it filled, and that's a scalable solution. You can predict the output. There is definitely ways that you could improve on the pre-trade, also the post-trade, using machine learning, using AIs that might improve your how quickly you can pass signals from various databases to give you maybe a reliable signal. Mentioned Arisa is the great signal that has a direction view. But also post-trade, we take a lot of data. We take a lot of post-trade, our fill data, our rejects. How do we enhance this? How can we read this quick enough such that it can feed back the pre-trade model to improve on this in an iterative manner? So much agree that it's not it's for different sectors, AI and machine learning helps. It's meant to assist us. It's whether it can be trusted to run directionally, probably in a small enough manner, but not in a big enough scale that we trade into billions of dollars a day. I have one curious thing I asked panelists. It's definitely not prepared previously, so any have a view, just bring your hands. What's one of the predictions you have for this year, for the next 9 months of the year? Could be anything, could be all predictions, or something that you're most excited about.
I can start first. I know you're asking for the the market trend and all this. Right?
It doesn't have to be market trend.
But I will tell you, like people ask me on the security, say, hey, at the bear market they ask me about security. At the bull market they ask me about security. It turns out, at least backed by number, okay, the number of incidents happened related to security didn't change much. The total loss actually proportional related to the price of the tokens. So then certainly we will see more loss. Like right now as a bull market, we see more of the total value loss. I predict, again, my prediction on the security side is that still as the growing industry, we are still facing a great challenge on the security. We'll still see a lot of incident losses, and people are learning it, but still we have so many younger generation of the developer hasn't fight with the attacker well. So I think we still see a lot of incident happen. Hopefully the old problem start to disappear. But every time we have a newly designed application or using more of the agent, then the agent also need to get more mature to learn what are the reliable signal, what are the fake signal. So that's my prediction.
Yeah, I think my prediction is that the market will definitely trend more towards meme coins, as we've discussed. I think parts of Asia have actually been living this phenomenon for the past year or so, where 70–80% of the centralized exchange volume is not in BTC and ETH, and I think that trend will continue. One other thing is, I actually think options trading will pick up too, so I'm very excited to look into that, because I think the dichotomy between TradFi and what's happening in DeFi is very interesting, and I think that gap will definitely close.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that I've been thinking about a lot. So, kind of in the meme coin field, like there's been a lot of DEX bots that have started on Telegram. And I think there's a very much a huge movement right now for a mobile first user experience in DeFi that I think will become more prevalent as people realize how easy it is to use it on mobile instead of your desktop. I also think from a DeFi perspective, there's been a lot of emphasis on the restaking economy. And while restaking is really, it's an incredible return for users, I also think that when the markets do turn, there's going to be a cascading effect on the economy of the entire ecosystem. So I am a little bit wary of that. And then the last thing is I think there's going to be a lot more asset classes that are going to be DeFi adjacent that's going to be coming out in like the next few months. So an example would be like RWA. So recently Cega has launched the very first DeFi structure product that is actually linked to gold. And in a similar way, I know other protocols like Ostium, who is trying to do commodities on chain. There's also a lot of discussions right now about equities on chain. And so these traditional asset classes are starting to form in the DeFi ecosystem. I think last year there was also Ondo that launched US Treasuries on chain. And so I think with that, people are going to realize that DeFi is not just an investment opportunity in itself, but to use DeFi technology on traditional assets will actually create much faster liquidity, much easier access, and I think people are going to start realizing that this year. So very excited about that.
I'll go with one specific and one kind of more general. So specifically, I think there will be an ETH ETF, but it won't be in the US. That's the first one. The second, I think we already started to see kind of a growth of DeFi as a percentage of total volume, both on spot and the derivative side. And I think that shift from kind of 95-5 centralized, decentralized to it's now 90-10, I think that'll continue over the course of the year as we've just, frankly, thanks to many of the folks on this panel, have seen dramatic improvements from performance on on-chain trading. And given performance is the same, why not go the more secure route? Why not go the more flexible route, the more available route? And so you combine performance improvements with, I think, clear improvements in user experience, and we should see a continued growth in DeFi over the course of the year.
Yeah. So for me, I guess I'll share two things, and I'm only sharing where things that I put my money on, right? First thing is I know that everybody excited today because the Bitcoin price is close to all-time high. And I want to just share this thought. The financial market overall, traditional market, as well as the crypto market, has been running hot for an extended period of time now. And despite the fact that I believe that Bitcoin will definitely hit much higher prices this year later, but I want to caution everyone about the laws of natural prices fluctuation. When you have a rally like this, there's going to be retracements. And when you have a unstable, geopolitical, landscape, and you have a financial market that's running hot, be wary of those risks. Be prepared. Do not use high leverage in this scenario. That's the first thing. Second thing is more related to us and the projects we're building. And I totally agree with the trend towards a mobile app. In the Web3 industry because, over the past, we have been a tech-savvy industry. We want to share, well, this thing is really cool. It's super tech-savvy. It's likely that a normal guy would never understand it. Even if after a complex research, they probably don't get the essence of the solutions that you have. Going forward, we want to make the product as simple as possible. We want to expose as little tech-savvy stuff to the users as possible and transitioning from a tech-savvy industry to a user-savvy industry. And one of the things that could be done is to have a mobile app. How would you actually access adapt today using a mobile app? You need to open a wallet and Explorer and then tap in the address or click on the icon. That's a long process. and each single click we lose users. We need to actually retain users with our own apps, and to do that, we need to come up with, a lot of innovative things underneath the iceberg, and so that the users can enjoy what's simple and elegant, just like an Apple product is providing to the users. So I think that's something that's definitely happening in this cycle. Yeah.
And I'll probably add my personal thoughts is, right now in the market is a lot of hot money sloshing around, all aiming for trading volumes or TVL. There's this points meta that will end sometime this year. We don't really know when, but watch out for that. There might be a deleveraging effect that Arisa mentioned cross that might ripple through DeFi. So definitely everything you mentioned, don't leverage up too much. Make sure you can survive.
I think there are too many bears on this panel.
Stake into options.
No, we're both. We're just, respecting the rule of fluctuation.
No, of course.
Thank you so much for my fellow panelists. Come and find us if you want to speak to any of us. We'll just be somewhere around here, or ping us a message on LinkedIn, Twitter, DM, anything. Cool. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.